in the last section, we added a callback to the map view, and we were able to successfully console log data from the map whenever the user dragged around on it, like so. So in this section, we're going to take a closer look into the object that gets console logged from the map and see how we can use the data inside of it to form up our request to go and grab some weather data. So the object that gets console logged has 4 keys: latitude, longitude, latitude delta, and longitude delta. Now, latitude and longitude are probably 2 properties that you're probably not surprised to see. If I zoom in on some spot here, at the very center of the map, that is what latitude and longitude represent. So if I pulled out a globe at latitude 39 and longitude -116, I would expect to see basically Nevada. The 2 other properties, longitude delta and latitude delta, are a little bit more interesting and a little bit more complex. Not quite what you would expect. Personally, when I first saw the names of the properties, I thought it meant how far the user just dragged the map, right? Delta kind of made sense. Delta traditionally means change. Well, that's actually not the case. What the longitude and delta and latitude delta report is what is the height and width of the map. What is the window? What's the viewable area distance provided by the map at this point in time? So right now, I can see just about the whole state of California, and you can see that I get a longitude delta of 8 and a latitude delta of 11. I'm going to go ahead and scroll in on Yosemite here, and as I scroll in, you can see that the deltas are in fact decreasing significantly. And so now I'm down to longitude delta 0.12 and latitude delta 0.17. So again, these deltas are actually referring to what is the total area of the map that's currently visible. So these deltas aren't quite useful for us in this particular application, but I'm sure you could think of other applications where you definitely want to have these numbers handy. All right, so let's flip back over to our code editor, and I'm going to remove this region console log in here. And we're going to talk about we're going to add on just a little extra feature on here just to help the user out. If I refresh the simulator, and then I start to zoom in on, say, let's go back to San Francisco. That's where I live, so I'm kind of partial. We're reporting data, weather data, to the user at the very center of the map. And for a user, it's actually kind of hard to tell what the center of the map is, right? Like right now, am I centered on Hayward or Castro Valley? There could be slightly different weather between the 2 locations, right? So it'd be really helpful if we gave the user some indication of what the center of the map is. It would kind of help them locate what the exact location that they're getting weather data for. So the way that we're going to address this is by placing a pin on the map. A pin, you may have seen in the iOS map or the Android map application, is it literally just looks like a pin. Internally to MapView, it's referred to as an annotation. You can think of it, an annotation as being kind of like, we're annotating the map in some fashion. We're adding some piece of information to the map. So to add this annotation, we're going to do it in a 2-step process. And the first way that we're going to do it is it's going to be a little bit more naive, but we're going to do it just to kind of get a handle on exactly how the annotation works. And then we're going to refactor it to be a little bit more dynamic. And when we refactor it, we're going to make use of the concept of state again in our component. And so this will be another opportunity to kind of nail exactly what state is doing for us. So to add an annotation inside of our render function here, I'm going to add another variable called pins, and pins is going to be an array with 1 object. The object is going to have 2 keys. It's going to have a latitude of 37 and a longitude of -95. And so this is where I said just a second ago that our data was going to be static. You can see that these are clearly static values that we're adding here. This annotation or pin that we're creating is going to be just a single pin that we can create on the screen. You'll notice that we have the array outside of it, and what that really tells you is that we can have multiple pins on the screen at the same time. If you've ever used the app Yelp, for example, the mobile app, when you scroll around on the map to find restaurants in your area, they can show you, maybe 10 or 15 pins on the screen at the same time. So the map does have the ability to add multiple pins and display them at the same time, but for our application, we really just want to show one pin at a time. So now that we've put together this pins object here, we're going to pass it into the map view on a property called annotations. And we'll pass it this pins array right here. So I'm going to save this, and then we'll refresh. And sure enough, here's our pin. So the longitude and latitude that we added was just about the exact center location of the map when it first starts up. You can see it, definitely looks like it's just about in the middle of the screen here. But when I scroll around, the map doesn't, or the pin doesn't move at all. And we really want to see the pin move so that the user has a better idea of where they're retrieving map weather data from. So let's go ahead, and in the next section, we're going to take this from being a statically placed pin to a dynamically placed pin. That's a tongue twister. Anyways, I'll see you in the next section.